Hello, I'm Shazza and welcome to my channel Hooked on Books. Today I'm going to be doing an unfortunate book tag. I was tagged in this by Jasmine over at Jasmine's Reads, and this tag was originally created by Alex over at What Page You're On. I will leave both of their channels in the description box below. I think this tag is brilliant. I love the questions and I used to love a series of unfortunate events. My dad used to buy me the books and I still have them. So yes, let's get on with the questions. Question 1. A book that you would consider a fortunate slow burn. For this one I have chosen The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is a fantasy book that I read this year and it's part of a series and I thoroughly enjoyed this. I haven't read fantasy for quite a while, so this was quite an enjoyable book for me, and it was also really literary and it was kind of like two genres that I love mixed together. It was like literary fiction and fantasy in one. The writing in this was incredible, and because of that literary aspect it kind of took a while to get into the story and to get to know the characters, but I enjoyed it from start to finish and I can't wait to get on to the next one. The story itself follows Fitz, who is training to be an assassin. I feel like most people know this book, so I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail, but the writing in this is just sublime. Question 2. A book with an unfortunate death. Well, this is an absolute no-brainer for me. It's always going to be Dobby from Harry Potter. There's no other death that has ever broke my heart as much as that. Question 3. A book with an unfortunate setting that you wouldn't want to live in. For this one I have chosen George Orwell's 1984. This is one of my favourite books, but this is definitely not a society that I would want to live in. No one is going to want Big Brother watching their every move, so definitely this one. Great book though. Question 4. A book that was an unfortunate, laborious read. For this one I have chosen a book that I do not even care to remember the title of it, so I'm not going to look that up. It was shite. It was compared to the film Labyrinth, which is one of my favourite films, so I had really high expectations of it, but I was stupid because I should have thought this through before I got it. Because it just ended up being really bad fan fiction, and why I didn't think that was a possibility, I don't know, but it was a hugely disappointing read and I just managed to get through it and yeah, give it 1 star on Goodreads and gave it away pretty much straight away. It was shit. Question 5. The best book featuring a fortunate friendship. For this one I have chosen The Year of the Hare by Arto Pasolina. This is translated from the Finnish. I have talked about this on my channel and I will probably talk about it again. The fortunate friendship in this one is between the main character and his pet hare that he goes off on an adventure with, because there's no better friendship than with an animal. Question 6. A book that unfortunately no one talks about. For this one I have chosen The Year of the Hare by Arto Pasolina. This is translated from the Finnish and it's about a guy who has a pet hare and they go off an adventure together. I just love this book, guys, and I just really wish that other people would read it, and I really love recommending this one to people in work and I always get really good feedback from it, so I'm just going to say this one again. Question 7. A book that unfortunately or fortunately transformed or haunts you. For this one I have chosen A Little Life. I didn't like this book, but I still think about it, I still talk about it. I was talking about it to someone the other day. It's a book that is it's lingered in my mind, and I did find it a very compelling read despite the fact that I just didn't like it as a book. But yeah, it definitely still kind of haunts me a little bit. I probably will do for a long time. I'm thinking about rereading it as part of the BookTube rereadathon this year, but I'm not sure if I really want to put myself through that because it's huge and I didn't like it, but we'll see. Question 8. An unfortunately overhyped book. For this one, The Essex Serpent. I feel like I've mentioned that before though. Maybe Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. I did really like that book actually. It was kind of surprising to me. It's not a book that I would normally pick up, but it was quite nice to read something that was quite easy, but I don't necessarily think that it deserves all the praise that it's getting. So yeah, Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. For this one I have chosen The Android's Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, which is what the Blade Runner films is based on. Who wants to live in a future where there are replicants and you have the possibility of having memories that aren't actually your own? That terrifies me. This is a fantastic book. I love the films as well. They're both very different. I read this years ago and I know that it is very different. I mean, as much as this future sounds kind of cool, at the same time it also terrifies me, so that is my choice for that one. Question 10. A book that fortunately or unfortunately gets really plot heavy towards the end. For this one I'm going to choose... I find this quite hard because I don't necessarily read that many plot heavy books. Maybe I'll go for The Girls or Gather the Daughters. I kind of think of them as the same in the way they are. They're kind of slow and literary but annoyingly literary to begin with, and then they end up just getting caught up in a story and then it just turns to shit basically. So yeah, those two. Question 11. A book with fortunate or unfortunate themes of mental health. For this one I've chosen It's Kind of a Funny Story. I thought this book was a bit shit, to be honest. It's a YA book, but it's about this guy who has depression and he ends up going into a mental hospital. I didn't find it to be an accurate description of the mental health system, but that is like the mental health system within the UK, so it might be more accurate for the American mental health system, because that's where it was written and published. But I didn't particularly find it a great book, but I know a lot of people love it. But yeah, so there you go. Question 12. A book with an unfortunate or fortunate family. For this one I haven't chosen everything because I think every single book on that shelf, or every single book in the world, pretty much depicts an unfortunate family. They're all dysfunctional, they all have issues, and yeah, there's very few books out there that I think depict very sort of happy family lives. At least they're kind of not really the books that I am geared towards anyway. So every single book in the world. Question 13. A book that you unfortunately wish that you could fortunately read again for the first time. That was a mouthful and a fucking half. For this one I have chosen A Whole Life. This is just the most glorious little book, and I do remember my experience of reading this. I had no expectations of what this was going to be. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into whenever I picked it up, and then I just fell in love with it from the very first sentence. It was just tone, just nailed it, story, nailed it, character, nailed it. Everything in this book is just incredible, and I do kind of want to reread it, but there's always this fear that it's not going to be the same as it was the first time. It's set in the 20th century in the Austrian Alps, and it's about this kind of very sort of introverted and quiet and introspective guy who he doesn't like the kind of modernity that's kind of coming into his little village, but it's just a very thought-provoking, subtle little story, and I just absolutely loved it the first time, and I would love to be able to re-experience that. So that was an unfortunate book tag. Thank you to Jasmine for tagging me and for Alex for creating it. It's a brilliant tag. If you haven't done it, definitely do it. It's a lot of fun. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you again in my next one. Bye.